The storm rolled in faster than anyone expected, swallowing the late afternoon sky in a bruise-colored haze. By the time Daniel Keller stepped onto the porch to call his 7-year-old son inside, thunder was already rumbling like something alive. But it wasn't the storm outside that would change his life. It was what he discovered inside his quiet, modest home, something so small he might have missed it if he hadn't turned around at precisely the right moment. A flinch, a wince, a faint, muffled intake of breath from the young babysitter who had always smiled her way through every scraped knee, spilled juice cup, or wild tantrum. One glimpse at her arm, at the deep red marks hidden beneath her sweater sleeve, was enough to freeze him where he stood, and what she told him when he asked about them, it made him shake. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of standing up for someone who needs help, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to life. Daniel had hired Maya almost by accident. She lived a few houses down, barely 18, quiet but warm, with a calming presence that soothed his son, Liam, in ways few people could. She had come over one afternoon to bring back a soccer ball that had rolled into her yard, and by the time she walked home, Daniel had found himself asking if she'd ever considered babysitting. He was a single father, still learning, still fumbling his way through each day after his wife's unexpected passing 2 years earlier, and Maya's help had been a godsend. She never complained, never arrived late, and seemed to pour her heart into every minute she spent with Liam. But over the past few weeks, Daniel had noticed small things. The way she kept her sleeves pulled down no matter how warm the house was, how she stiffened when someone walked too quickly past her, how she had slowly begun to lose weight despite claiming she'd been eating fine. He had chalked it up to stress, maybe exams, maybe a difficult household with strict parents. He didn't want to jump to conclusions. He didn't want to pry. But that day, when she reached to pick up Liam's jacket and her sleeve slid back, exposing dark, raw bruises along her forearm, everything changed. He saw her freeze when she noticed him looking. Her eyes darted away. Her breath grew sharp and shallow. She tugged the sleeve back down as if trying to erase what he had just seen. Daniel wasn't a man easily rattled. Life had already chewed him up, carved grief lines into his face, and forced him to rebuild himself from ashes. But something about the sight of those bruises, their placement, their pattern, their story, hit him harder than he expected. After Liam settled at the kitchen table with his coloring books, Daniel gently approached Maya, keeping his voice calm, soft. He didn't want to scare her. He asked her if she was okay, if she was hurt, if someone had done this to her. For a long moment she stared at the floor, fingers twisting the hem of her sleeve, her lip trembling with the effort to keep her composure. And then she whispered something so fragile, so small, that he almost didn't catch it. "Please don't tell anyone." Her voice broke, and Daniel, heart pounding, felt his hands shake. The hours that followed unraveled like a slow-motion nightmare. Maya didn't want to talk, didn't want to sit down, didn't want him to know anything. But Daniel was patient. He didn't push. He simply stayed nearby, offering her water, reminding her that she was safe, that he wouldn't judge her or force her to explain until she was ready. Eventually, when Liam went upstairs to play, Maya finally sank into the couch and let her walls crack open. Her boyfriend. That was the first piece. A boy not much older than she was. Charming at first, those were her words, funny, affectionate, so good at making her feel like she mattered. But slowly, subtly, gradually, he changed. The first shove. When he was angry. The first cruel comment. The first time he grabbed her wrist too hard, and then apologized with tears in his eyes, and promises that he'd never do it again. The cycle had wrapped her up before she had even realized she was trapped inside it. Daniel listened to her story, every word, every trembling pause, feeling a protective anger he hadn't expected. He had a daughter once, had dreamed of the woman she might become, but she had died before she ever saw the world, before she took her first breath. Maybe that was why Maya's pain hit something deep inside him. Maybe that was why he felt the instinct to protect her, to shield her from whatever darkness had followed her here. The following days unfolded with a tension that seeped into every corner of their lives. Maya's boyfriend had begun showing up unexpectedly at her house, sending threatening messages, demanding to know where she was at all hours. Daniel could see the fear in her eyes each time her phone buzzed, and he could tell she wasn't sleeping. Whenever she tried to act like nothing was wrong for Liam's sake, he admired her strength, but he also saw how fragile that strength was becoming. Then came the night everything reached a breaking point. Daniel had asked Maya to stay a little later so he could run to the store for cold medicine. When he returned, the house was quiet, too quiet, and the living room lights were dimmed. His pulse jumped as he called out Maya's name. Her voice answered from the kitchen, shaky and scared. When he stepped in, she was standing against the counter, clutching her phone, her face pale as snow. She told him her boyfriend was waiting outside. She had seen his car. She had seen him get out. Before Daniel could react, there was a pounding on the front door. It was the kind of moment that forced existence into sharp focus. Daniel wasn't a fighter, wasn't someone who sought confrontation, but he was a father, a protector, and he refused to let this young woman be harmed. Under his roof, he told Maya to stay behind him. He opened the door only enough to block the entrance with his body. The boy, tall, wiry, eyes burning with anger, demanded to see her. He shoved his hands into his pockets, pacing like a predator. Daniel's voice stayed calm but firm as he told him to leave, told him that Maya didn't want to see him. The boy spat out insults, threats, accusations. And when Daniel took a step forward, the boy flinched, then backed away, muttering something under his breath before storming off to his car. Maya collapsed to the floor the moment the car sped away, sobbing with a release she had been holding in for far too long. Daniel knelt beside her, not touching her unless she reached for him. He told her she wasn't a burden, she wasn't alone, and she wasn't going back to someone who hurt her. Something in his voice, something steady, grounded, seemed to pull her back from the edge. Over the next week, Maya slowly found the strength to make changes she had once thought impossible. With Daniel's support, she filed a police report, got help from a nearby women's shelter, and reached out to a counselor who specialized in domestic abuse. She returned to babysitting Liam when she could, and each time Daniel saw her smile return, even slightly, he felt something inside him heal too. Their small home became a sanctuary for her. She laughed again. She ate again. She slept without jumping awake at every sound. Liam adored her, drawing her pictures and telling her he wanted her to stay forever. Daniel didn't say it out loud, but he felt the same. But life, with all its unpredictable beauty, had one more twist to offer. One evening in early spring, after she had tucked Liam into bed with his favorite dinosaur blanket, Maya sat at the kitchen table with Daniel. She looked different now. Stronger, more grounded, her eyes finally clear. She told him she was planning to start taking classes at the community college down the road. She wanted to become a teacher one day. She wanted to help kids who reminded her of herself. Daniel felt a swell of pride and something else, a warmth he couldn't fully name, but he didn't need to. She reached across the table, her hand trembling slightly, and thanked him for saving her life. He shook his head, insisting she had saved herself. He had only been a witness. In the months that followed, both of them grew, individually, quietly, and then, unexpectedly, toward each other. Daniel never rushed anything. Maya never pushed. Their hearts found each other slowly, like hands reaching out in the dark and finally meeting with steady, gentle certainty. And while neither of them planned it, neither of them expected it, love slipped quietly into the spaces where fear had once lived. If this story has touched your heart or reminded you of the importance of compassion, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement helps our channel continue sharing stories that matter. Before we end, please comment below. Have you ever helped someone through a difficult time, or has someone helped you when you needed it most? The final scene of their story wasn't dramatic, wasn't loud, wasn't anything like the night everything came crashing down. It was simple, warm, gentle. Daniel stood on his porch, watching Maya chase Liam down the walkway as they laughed about something silly. The sun dipped low behind them, casting long shadows that merged together like 3 threads woven into a single cord. When Maya reached Daniel, she caught her breath, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and smiled at him in a way that held gratitude, hope, and the kind of affection that grows from shared pain and healing. He took her hand, not tightly, not possessively, but with a quiet reverence, and felt the warmth of her fingers lace with his. She wasn't the same girl who had walked into his home months earlier, and he wasn't the same man who had felt the world slipping from his grasp after losing his wife. Together, they had rebuilt something they thought they had lost, the belief that life could be beautiful again, that bruises could heal, that trust could return, that second chances could arrive when you least expected them. As the evening breeze curled around them, Daniel realized that sometimes the people who enter your life quietly, almost unnoticed, are the very ones who change it forever. And Maya realized that sometimes the safest place in the world is not a house or a shelter or a locked door, but the steady, patient heart of someone who refuses to give up on you, and that was the beginning of everything new.